Hello, everybody. It's Catherine, Michele, and Sophia and Sarah are with us tonight. And as you know, last night we went live, but Sarah had some family issues going on, so she couldn't make it. So she came back today to join us. So thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I figured what we would do, how we would start off is I will let Sarah introduce herself and then give you guys a little bit of her background so you can understand that she has a lot of knowledge in this area of decomp and bodies. So, Sarah, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Sarah.
So, Sophia, can you mute?
All right. So, hi, everybody. I'm Sarah. I have been working in the death industry, funeral industry, however you want to word it, for a good part of my life. Grew up in a cemetery, grew up around it all. I have specialty in doing removals, biohazard removals, assisting with embalmings, and assisting and watching, being part of autopsies. I've seen all types of different cases of, death, and everything from natural causes to suicides to you name it. And so when I came across the Crowley case, there were some things that I seen that were just very inconsistent with what, in my years of being in the business, just didn't quite add up. So I'm here to just kind of give my input on what I know and to try to help maybe clear up some questions everybody might have about this case.
Okay, and can you give us a little bit better, for those who don't know, I mean, we know, but this is for the audience. Can you explain to people what you said that you dealt with biohazards? Can you explain to them what that means?
Sure. So biohazards would be dealing with decomposition, people who have been passed away for extended periods of times. I can't talk, I'm so nervous, sorry. An extended period of time before they were found. So gone through a lot of the stages of decomposition, the different things that happen during the stages of decomposition, and how I dealt with it, or how most people in the industry deal with cleaning up and handling a biohazard situation.
Okay, and in your experience, and Sophia, please feel free to jump in anytime, but in your experience, have you ever, and I know the answer to this, but trust me, I'm asking this for a reason, have you ever seen decomp either jump ahead or skip a step, or does it go in a consistent manner all the time? Generally speaking, I'm not talking about, say, someone lies on the street and then somebody comes along and sets them on fire. I'm talking generally speaking, does it follow a set path or does it jump around?
It's a natural, it's a specific set of circumstances that happen no matter what. Now, there are factors that could speed up or slow down the process, but for the most part, everything happens in the same way.
So with the Crowley case, like, my issues that I found with it is that by looking at the photo, and at first when you're reading the reports, because every single officer is like, it's advanced stage of decomp, there's skeletonization going on. So when you're reading the report, you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe they were there for 3 or 4 weeks, right? Well, then when you start to see the photos, you're like, this didn't end. No, this is early moderate. This is not advanced. And so, and I've taken a lot of slack for pointing this out and standing my ground, because I don't have as much experience as you do, but I was an EMT and I've watched autopsies, I've dealt with that. Same thing, but not to the degree you have. You have a lot of experience. But when you're trying to tell people that, no, the way this body is, we still have organs that are intact that can be sliced and put on, look at under a microscope. They're not advanced.
Right. Yeah, no, I would say in my experience seeing someone in a severely advanced state of decomposition, most of the biological tissue is non-existent.
It's gone. Yep. I agree. Sophia, you have anything you want to add?
I have a few questions, but I want to continue on this path right now. But there are some questions I have as we go along. Sarah, I had shown you a couple photos, and from those photos, in your personal opinion, with what you have come across in your career, can you please explain to us how you feel that the Crowleys, what stage they're in, and how long you think that they had been passed away, please?
So, for David, I think he was in the most furthest state of decomposition. When the body starts to get mummified the way that he was, that, and from the things that I have seen, is not 3 weeks worth of decomposition. For Kamal, and excuse me if I say the baby's name wrong, I'm just going to refer to her as the baby.
Rania,
okay. They were in very beginning stages. Skin slippage. Is it okay if I say those?
Yes, it is. Oh, I'm glad you asked that. So everybody, I'm sorry, Sophia even reminded me and I forgot. This is not going to be a topic for children. So, and those who are squeamish, we are talking about death, decomposition, and the bodies in the Crowley case. I am so sorry, everybody. I'll try to do a typewritten little blurb at the beginning before I post this online, but I'm sorry, Sophia, you did tell me and I forgot. Okay, there we go. Sorry, Sarah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's why I was like, is it okay?
Yes, go for it.
So, with Kamal and Rania, they were in, I would say, maybe a week to maybe a week and a half from what I've seen personally into decomp, with the bloating, the skin slippage, things of that nature. David was way too far into his decomposition. If I had to put a timeline on him, he would have been more 3 to 4 weeks into his decomp, because that's when you start to see the mummification. He had mild bloating in the abdomen not mild, but he had the bloating in the abdomen.
It was mild, yeah. It didn't get to the point, as you know, they will, but he wasn't nowhere near that stage.
There was no putrefaction.
Mm-mm.
There was lack of fluids that the body will expel. It's called purging.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see that really in all three of them. The lack of blood also really kind of set wrong with me, especially for suicide, because I've seen that personally with my own 2 eyes multiple times, and that's just not it didn't add up to me with what I've seen.
And I want to get your opinion. I interviewed the Colorado Springs medical examiner. His name was Dr. Leon Kelly. Now, a lot of this was to help other people, but because I was asking him about the decomposition, and he said, and I asked him to explain the mummification and tell me if you have seen or heard of this. He explained it as if hands and feet are bare and they're near an object like paper or something that will wick away the moisture out of the skin, plus the fact that the hands and feet are thinner. There's not as much adipose, and it's just basically almost skin and bones, but we know there's tissue and there's, well, he said for him that explains the mummification, but he said that their time of death was 4 to 7 days for Kamal and Rania, but he said 10 days at most. He goes, I wouldn't put it past 2 weeks. He said because they were able to do the slicing of the organs, and the organs had not yet liquefied, and only some of the internal cavities had partial decomp fluid in them. What do you think about that? I would like another opinion.
So I'll give you a scenario where I was involved, kind of similar, and the gentleman was same thing, hands mummified. He had a lot of missing regular tissues. When they went to go and do his internal autopsy, it was liquid. There was nothing in there for them. I personally had to try to pull fluids from that cavity for toxicology, urine, stuff like that. I couldn't get it. There was nothing really there for me to get. They were mushed, if that makes sense.
Absolutely does. Yep.
Yeah.
So, and that's my main point. That's something I've been trying to put through to these people. So, wait, here's a question that people have been asking all along. I don't have the answer to it, but you just might. So, could the mummification of the hands and feet be due to, like, saying their hands and feet were bound and cut off circulation? I don't know if that's a yes or no answer. Do you have any idea? Could circulation being cut off cause mummification to occur faster?
I do believe it can, because you're cutting off all that blood flow, and then you have tissue that is going to necrose if it's not getting the proper blood flow to the extremities.
Okay, so that could be, and we're not saying, again, everybody, the little caveat here, we're not saying this is what happened. We're trying to get what could have happened. So for everybody, and a lot of people have asked that question, so all of you who've asked a question about could the hands and feet have been bound, then, Sarah, in her experience and her expertise, is saying it's a possibility.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Sarah, in your opinion, after everything that you've seen and you've read, could they have been stored someplace, like either refrigerated or exposed to cold or anything?
So if they would have been exposed, so for the time, this is just my thinking with everything that I know, between this case and then the things that I know in my field, if they were immediately put somewhere on, in a cooler, would have slowed down the decomp process. Because that's usually what we do. When we get a body in, no matter what state, well, I think before they've gotten into further decomposition, we put them immediately into a cooler to slow that down until they can be embalmed. Or some families don't want it, you know, whatever their preference is. It can prolong from the tissues breaking down, but not to the point to what you saw in this case.
And would that also cause like the differences in their decomposition then, if they were brought out at the same time? And I mean, what we're seeing is like really weird stuff when we're reading the autopsy. It doesn't quite match the decomp timeline. It's like some things seem more advanced than other things, and it's just weird.
So the couple of things that I noticed was the lividity that didn't quite add up. If they were to have been put in a cooler, the lividity would have been a little bit more prevalent. But I didn't see that. I saw very sporadic, kind of all over the place. Because usually the blood
the marbling. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just something I have been beating this drum like for so long, because this is something I saw quite a bit of, and you know, lividity is something, there's no denying it, and lividity is what happens when the blood then follows gravity to the lowest point, wherever that lowest point is. If they're standing, sitting, turned upside down, if that lowest point toward the ground is where the blood goes. So if David had truly done this and he was laying this way, his entire back, with the exception of where the skin met the floor, would have been that lividity. It would have been unmistakable, and yet we don't see that on any of the bodies. There's no lividity anywhere, and in fact it says, you know, no lividity. They couldn't see it. Now, another thing that I want to kind of go a little bit further what Sophia was just asking, because on David's autopsy, it clearly states marked autolysis, and Kamel and Rania are just autolysis. Now, in the medical field, and I'm assuming it's the same for you, words mean something. So when they put marked, it's for a reason. So they're saying that they've noticed it's more advanced. Is that what you would expect? Is that your understanding as well?
That is my understanding. Yep. And yes, words words definitely do mean something when they are, when they're different. If you've got a whole case like in this instance, where you've got one victim that has that marked, in there, and the other ones don't, that's very telling that he had more than the others. Which again, in my opinion, just my opinion, he was first.
Yeah, and that's what we've been saying. Sophia and I have been saying this for a long time, and again, we've taken a lot of heat, but we've been reading these reports and looking at the photos, but really, when you pay attention to what's being said, they're telling you the order. So that's why we're very vocal going, no, wait a minute, David died first, not Kamel, not Ronnie, David did. So if he died first, how did he kill them? And yet we can't get any answers from anybody like that. Instead, we get poo-pooed and made fun of and said, oh, you guys are crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, wait a second. So when you offered to come on, you have no idea how happy you made us. We're like, hey, somebody who knows. Not that we were expecting you to say what we were saying, but we knew you were going to say what we were saying, because in the medical field and how death goes, it only goes a certain way.
It can't go one or the other. It is very specific how it happens, no matter who you are, no matter how you passed, the stages of decomp and disposition, it's all the same.
Thank you. You have no idea. It's like, yes. Sophia, do you have any other questions right now? Okay, this is going to be a little off topic, but I did have 2 people send questions for you, but because we can get back to this in a minute. One of those questions is, and I think if I wrote down their question correctly, it will help you, but I think you're going to follow along. It says, do you know how entomology relates to decomp? Because that's something that's really, some people bring it up, but I did a lot of research and I found some conflicting information for Minnesota, because in the wintertime, a lot of reports say there are no flies. Other reports say you might see some, but in this body, there were no maggots, there were no flies, there were no bugs.
Okay. So, from my experience, now I'm on the East Coast, and we have seen maggots, flies, those types of bugs in temperatures lower than 60 degrees Celsius. Now, it is a lot slower versus, say, someone in Florida. But it is possible, and it does happen.
Okay, so do you think, in your experience, because, I mean, I lived in Minnesota. I was born and lived there in Minneapolis, so I am a Minnesotan. And I don't ever recall having or seeing flies in winter, but I was a kid, and it was a long time ago. And so would you expect to, okay, let me rephrase this. If the narrative were true, and if those bodies were all there decomposing for 3-4 weeks, maybe longer, would you expect to see any kind of insect activity, even though it was winter?
In the house with the heat on, very little, if any.
Okay, so it's really not a surprise that there was no bugs found. Okay, because that has been a question also that a lot of people have asked, and
Yeah, I mean, the fact that there was no rotting trash, like really rotting trash, I don't believe the house was heated too super hot.
It was set at 68 degrees, and that's not too bad.
Right. So I don't expect to see many. Maybe if they did, it would be 1 or 2. But then you do have a dog who was scavenging for food, so it's not uncommon for animals to.
Okay, that's another thing. Oh, thank you. Okay, so here's how I love these autopsy reports. Now and again, it's wording in how the standard operating procedure of how you word things in these documents. However, there are parts of one of the autopsies, and I believe it was David's, where it said that there was jagged tissue and rough edges on the bone, and indicative of or apparently due to dog scavenging. Then the other parts of the body, it says due to these pieces are missing due to apparent scavenging. They worded it 2 different ways. And other one says smooth ends on the radius and the ulna, stuff like that, which is not indicative of a dog scavenging.
No.
So, and I don't know if you know this, but there were 2 bags of dog food on the floor, 2 large bags of dog food, one of them open. So the dog had access to food. And I don't know if this is your area of expertise or not, but have you ever seen a dog not leave evidence of chew marks on most of the bodies, but then be blamed for them missing and at the same time have access to food?
No. Especially if there was access to food. And I've been in a couple of cases where there was dogs left out. We've had to get animal control in. But there was food the dogs are not dumb. Most dogs, if they know that that's their bag of food, and, you know, if you have an animal, most animals know, hey, that's my food, I want it. They'll get into that food before they would try to harm their owner. Most I've seen is dogs licking their owners, like trying to, because they don't understand what's going on, and they're trying to lick their owners like, hey, wake up, wake up, wake up. But I've never seen, in my, you know, experience, a dog trying to eat its owner. Now, that's not to say that it hasn't happened before, but not for, the things that I've read about is bigger dogs, like very large dogs, some not so nice breed dogs that resort back to their animalistic instincts, but not a dog that teeny tiny, and especially if he had access to food.
Okay, and in your opinion, because this dog, when they finally found and got Paleo out of the house, he was considered thin. So I think when they weighed him, he was only 15 pounds, but he normally was 20 to 25 pounds. So he had lost weight, and which doesn't seem to me conducive to feeding on the owners, because Sophia has been saying nonstop, and again, she's taken a lot of flack for this, but she keeps saying if there's dog food there, the dogs are Paleo would go for the food, because it was on the floor where all he had to do was like scratch a bag to get it to open. Mm-hmm. But and so, you know, they're like, oh yes, they would, dogs will eat their owners, and she has been saying time and again, not if there's food available.
Right. Yeah, no.
Catherine, I'm sending you a screenshot. It's Mason Hendricks and Greg having a conversation. Mason Hendricks is talking about the house, and supposedly they were in it after the cleaners. And we believe that they were in it on the 20th. And so I wanted you to read it and then ask their opinion on it, please.
Okay.
It's pretty loud here. Hey, you need to go. Sorry.
Okay. Okay. I will. There it is. You would think I'd be smart enough and know how to operate my computer, but sometimes I don't. Okay. So this is between Greg and Mason. Okay. So first person who's responding is Mason Hendricks, and he says, we went in there, I want to say around the 23rd or something, because the smell was so bad still, and I think that sometime early in the week, they went back in and left off more chem bombs to dissipate the smell. All of us threw away our clothes because the smell would not, he meant would not wash out. It says would wash out, but would not wash out. Chris was never there on his own. And then, let's see. Okay, so yeah, I think that's what she wanted to get your opinion about, was just that section, correct? Because the rest is about Chris Peck. So, in your opinion, when the cleaners come in to clean, does the smell of decomp remain after they're done?
There is chemicals that are used that are not publicly available, obviously. Mm-hmm. And sadly, I was tasked with 2 different occasions of doing cleanup, one for my own father-in-law.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, he regurgitated his own esophagus, and that's what, so that was a bloody mess. And then my cousin's husband was in the military, got to be too much for him, and he shot himself in the head. So, cleaning up those, and being where I was working, I had access to these chemicals. Everything that has been touched with blood, which if you guys, you've seen the Spalding Decon, you know what they have to do. Anything that's been touched with any type of biological anything has to be removed, cleaned, scrubbed. And the most that I have ever had to, I guess, smell would be the chemicals. Nothing of decomp, no, no foul smells. It really just smells like cleaners.
And that's where Sophia was leading, because, again, we talk a lot about this, and it's the same thing. When you walk into, decomp before cleaners have been there, that does get on you. That stuff doesn't go away. You do have to trash your clothes, and you're washing your hair for days sometimes because you can't get it out.
Well, you go in and you are in full head-to-toe hazmat, Tyvek, everything.
Yeah. So if these, and so in my opinion, if these guys walked into this house 3 or 4 days later, supposedly after the cleaners, now these are professionals. They're not going to leave a house with a strong odor of decomp. So these guys, in other words, or if what he is saying is true, by deducing the facts versus what he says, they were in there before the cleaners got there.
Yes.
And so, that then throws a whole wrench into their story. So basically, once cleaners are there, once they use those chemical bombs, because even with, like you said, with Spalding will go through that, and they're like, okay, this smells so strong, we're going to set this off. They open everything up, fans and everything, and then they will come back either hours later or the next day, and it's completely fresh. There's no smell of decomp anymore. So is that what you find to be true as well?
Yes, because that's their job. Their job is to make it as if it never happened, as if you would have never been able to tell anything horrible happened in that space. Smell, visual, anything. So I find that hard to believe that he said he could still smell it after the cleaners.
I agree with you.
Would they leave cans of that chem smell behind after they left?
Sorry, what did you say?
He's talking about how they had to use some of the cans to release the chem smell or to get rid of the smell in the house. Would they leave that behind?
No, because no. It's regulated chemicals. You can only get it with a license, and no, they would not have left anything like that behind.
Yeah, because he says sometime early in the week, they went back in and let off more chem bombs because I guess they complained about it. But it's like, no, dude, no. That would have been so unprofessional for them to leave that house with a smell of decomp still there.
Exactly.
They could lose their license. Who's going to call them?
Right.
This is awesome. I was going to ask something else. Sophia, can you? Do you have anything else? I forgot a question. I'm trying to get my question back. I'm like, oh, geez.
When you looked at the crime scene photos, did you see any type of high velocity blood spatter?
Not at all. No.
Thank you, Sophia.
That's what actually really also caught my eye when I first started looking into this case. The lack of blood, the lack of bodily fluids that we release when we pass. The fact that David had blood on his boxers, on the front of his boxers, that really, because I've seen, I've seen people who have taken their own lives via the same way he has. Now, if they were slumped over, absolutely, it would be all over the front of them. But because he was laid back, where was the blood that soaked through not only 3 shirts, a pair of pants, and then the boxers?
Yep. And what I've seen, one scene we went to, they didn't die, but it was a massive head injury. Now they were scrunched and sitting. They were protecting their head, sitting down on the ground, protecting while they're getting hit. Mm-hmm. Well, as EMTs, we have to take their clothes off in the ER and stuff. Well, I saw that same pattern, straight down the front, straight down into the shorts. And so I never saw it on anybody laying this way.
Exactly. And even the man that I was telling you guys about earlier that I had picked up, that had mummified himself so bad he was like this. Same thing, shot himself, back of the head, no blood on the boxers. It was all on the floor, and then all of his, purging fluids were around him, but not on the front of the clothing or anywhere on the boxers or anything of that nature.
Yeah, because when you're looking at the clothing, you see a distinct pattern strictly on the left side. There's nothing on the right side at all. And it's just like a line of demarcation. And it's completely soaked. But if that is completely soaked, then that means if he died in that room, there should be blood everywhere. And there's not.
The pictures I sent you guys earlier, that gentleman as well, I went to that scene. Everywhere. Walls, tables, chairs, floor, everywhere. But nothing in those photos from the Crowleys indicated anything like that. And I believe you said it was the same caliber.
Yeah, 40 cal.
Yep.
Yeah, and here's with I don't know if the one that on the scene you sent us, but with the Crowley scene, not only were they 40 cal, but they were hollow points.
His was too.
Okay, so then so it should have been exactly like that, or very similar, and yet they're like night and day.
Night and day. Yep.
And okay, my question is, and I know it in the scheme of things it truly doesn't matter, but I'm like thinking, and it all boils down to this bullet hole in the ceiling, item number 57. Now, of the people that I know, and I will admit I don't know a ton of people in the cleanup business, but I know a few, just a few. They check everything. They look high, they look low, they're checking everything because, like you said, they have to make sure that they have to fix it so that when the family walks in, it's as if nothing happened, or as close to nothing happened, and what was done is hidden. Like you see kills on the wall and part of the wood was cut up, but you're not seeing the actual other stuff. Now, I've been saying forever, if that bullet hole were truly in the ceiling the night of the event, and especially days after when the cleaning crew comes in and they're taking a Christmas tree down, you're looking up, because who doesn't look up when you're taking your Christmas tree down, and it's right up there, nobody saw it. Do you buy that, or do you, okay. I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I'm already speaking for you, and I need to shut up. So I'm going to mute myself.
But no,
The Christmas tree, why wasn't that removed? It was right there in the middle of everything.
A lot of things weren't moved. A lot of things weren't looked at. Very sloppy. I even showed my grandfather, who is a retired cop. He's been a cop for 45 years and did homicide for a long time. And I showed him some of the photos from the case, and he said, "Why is the trash can still full? Why did they not piece out the trash can? Why were they not looking for evidence? Why
oh my God, I said that so many times." Yes. Okay, sorry.
No, you're good. He made a lot of good points. Okay, why wasn't furniture moved? There was so much blood on the recliner. Why wasn't the recliner moved to look for any bullet casings? Things of that nature. So he did explain to me that a lot of things were missed, that it was a very sloppy investigation, especially with the bullet hole in the ceiling. When you have someone this is what he explained to me. When you have someone that they are, on the outside looking in, might look like a murder-suicide, you check for everything. You check for stray bullet holes, because I believe they were trying to see how many bullets were in the clips, what was missing from the clips versus how many shells they retrieved, things of that nature. I can tell you what I personally think. I personally think the bullet hole above the tree on the ceiling, I think, was after the fact.
I've been saying that, Sophia. We have been saying this, and I have gone rounds and rounds with people about that, because I'm like, a professional. You guys have to understand, this is their job. These professionals know to look up, to look on every side. They look everywhere. They will. And when you're moving furniture, you know, just like some people don't understand how the one bullet was missed, but it was found when the rug is being rolled. And like that is something I would expect to happen. Seen it happen. I know people, deputy coroner, you know, they've seen this, or they explained it. Yes, that does happen if it was rolled under the rug, underneath the couch, and, you know, that type of thing. So they're rolling it, falls on the floor. Yes, to be expected. To miss a hole in the ceiling as they're cleaning, especially by how many officers were there, how many other people in and out, and then the entire cleaning crew?
Right.
Impossible.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so I do have one other question. The entomology one. Oh, yeah. Because we got off. Sorry, I got you off on a tangent on that one. So, do you know? Because I have a little bit of knowledge, but not a lot. But how is it that entomology relates and correlates and works into decomp? How do they progress together, I guess, is my question. Or do they progress together?
So, and you're referring to like the maggots and all that stuff. So again, like I said, heat can play a factor in expediting those things. When you have a body that's in high temperatures, it's relatively quick. The flies lay the eggs, you know, the eggs hatch, and there you go. And then the forensics can usually tell how long a body's been sitting based off of what stage the larvae or the maggots are in. Being that it was inside the house, cold outside, I'm not sure that there would have been much, but if you would have had, like I said, rotten trash in the house, rotten fruit, food, any kind of, you know, things that would have been rotten, that would have attracted, and then they could have been able to use that to get a timeline, but I didn't see any of that. So I don't know that there was much of that in there.
Yeah, there wasn't any rotten food. I think the kiwi was still okay. The bananas were just getting a little brown. In fact, their bananas were just getting to the point where I would make banana bread. You know, so nothing was really rotten at all.
Right. Which kind of, you know, in my opinion, throws out the 3-week narrative.
Yeah, because a long time ago, did you help me with that? Because I know I took photos because we were all doing like separate things. Sophia was doing, trying to make footprints, and then I was doing the banana experience. I went to the store and got bananas in different stages and left them and took photos every day to see what it would progress. Mm-hmm. And, you know, to get them to where they were at that one, it was right about the 7 to 10 day mark. And then they looked exactly the same. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The other question, and this has nothing to do with decomp, but this person wanted me to ask you that the stereotype of most decedents are like elderly people. Most people think when you're going, it's going to be somebody old. Mm-hmm. But they wanted to know, however, is it common for you to see either babies, young children, or young people?
Yes. Yes. Unfortunately, yes. And yeah. I saw a, this one gets me in my feels. it was a 6-year-old little girl, and the parents were, again, different scenario, but same, process of decomp and everything. Parents were neglecting the baby. No food, no water, left her locked up, chained, I might add, to a bed. And when I found her, after the police found her and we went in to do what we needed to do, it was horrible. That is a picture I will never get out of my head. And, bloating, skin slippage, all of those things. And it's rough. It's definitely not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, in my experience, I've only seen one child. I'm not talking about like the babies that would come into the ER, so I'm talking about, like, at the morgue. I only saw one child. She was a 4-year-old, and for me, what struck me is that she literally looked like a porcelain doll. She looks like this little doll lying there. Unfortunately, it was one of those sad situations where she was between two vehicles. One of the other kids dislodged the emergency brake, and it was a horrible situation, a horrible accident. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wasn't expecting, to see porcelain skin on such a young baby.
No, I've had infants. I've had infants that had like SIDS that look just like that, look like perfect little babies you wouldn't have even thought after embalming. I've had stillborns. I've had, sadly, full term babies that didn't make it. But one of the biggest reasons, and I'll share with you, one of the biggest reasons I stepped back from doing what I'm doing, or what I was doing, I've been out of it for about 6 months now, is because most people think when they're handing over their loved one to a funeral home, they're entrusting them to take care of them with respect and dignity, and to treat them as if they were still alive as a human being, like I'm speaking to you. I saw some very horrific things happening in funeral homes, not only to infants, but to full-blown adults, elderly, you name it. And when I was doing a cremation, larger people, they make a little bit more remains after being cremated, and we have special containers for those. As I was on my way to get that extra large urn for this decedent, my coworker decided he didn't feel like doing that and flushed this person's ashes in the toilet to make it fit into the regular urn. And when I went to the owner of the funeral home and the crematory place, I told them what I saw. I got reprimanded, and when I put in my resignation, they made me sign an NDA to get my severance pay, so that I couldn't go to the State Board of Anatomy or the State Board of Morticians to report them. So I signed it, and then I had my sister do it.
Good for you. I'm proud of you. I am proud of you. Good job. Wow, that is cool.
I've had funeral homes bring babies into me in Amazon boxes. I've had funeral homes bring decedents in caskets with trash at the bottom of their feet, dirty gloves, trash, you name it. So my recommendation for everybody, I know this is a little bit off a topic, but do due diligence, especially if you're doing pre-need, because there's also funeral homes that will steal your pre-need money. Just research, read reviews, go in and, tour their facilities, talk with people, just do as much research as you can before you entrust your loved one to just whoever's the cheapest.
Okay, so that's some good advice. Wow, that's holy cow. No words. No words at all. Oh my God. Oh. And one of these days when you get more used to maybe talking, I know there are people who signed on the live stream, and I know they wanted to ask you questions. So maybe one of these times we could actually do a live stream, and so these people can ask their questions too.
Sure.
It's only a little scary at first, but then it's not so bad. You know, we're all good. Sophia, do you have any other questions?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head, but I really would love for Sarah to come back and do a live stream when we can have people asking questions. You have such amazing live chat people, regulars who show up and ask the most amazing questions. So, Sarah, from the bottom of my heart, I would love to thank you for taking the time and being brave enough to come up here and talk with us and answer our questions and to share your experience with us, because it really, truly means a lot to us.
Yeah.
And the stories that you entrusted with us, thank you so much. I mean, my heart is breaking right now for those people that their bodies had to endure that, and and for what you had to go through. I mean, that's horrid. I'm so sorry.
I had coworkers make fun of me because I would talk to the decedent like I'm talking to you.
Why would they make fun of you?
Why are you talking to dead people? They're dead. Well, they are someone's mothers, someone's brothers, fathers, uncles. It didn't matter to me. When I met with someone, I'd say, "Hi, Mrs. So-and-so. My name is Sarah. I'm going to be taking care of you today. And I'm going to let you know what I'm going to do every step of the way so you know how I am going to be taking care of you." And people were they thought I was not right.
I see it as respectful, you know. I really do. And that reminds me, we're going to be comparing stories now. When I was still when I was doing my rounds before I took the National Registry for EMTs, we had a patient come in, head wounds type of thing. So, of course, the students get to take it, and I didn't care. So it was me and another girl. We had to take them back and get them ready for sutures and stuff. And their whole, the poor person, it was caked blood. And so the girl and I were like, let's clean him up, because we knew nobody else was going to do it. And you don't want them walking around with caked blood on their face. So we're in there and we're being careful because they hadn't numbed it yet or anything. And every time we would go to touch, they would kind of wince, and we're like, okay, we'll be very careful, but we're going to get this off of you. And I still can see one of the paramedics from AMR came in, standing in the door going, "Oh, what are we doing? Putting makeup on?" And I said, "No, we're taking care of the patient and we're cleaning them up." Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a rude jerk. But yeah, so I get it.
Yes. I didn't mind. You can call me what you want, but I know at the end of the day, my heart was right, and I treated that person the way I would want someone to treat my family.
Mhm. I agree. But is there anything else that you want to reiterate, that something else that you saw in the case, or even in your knowledge when it comes to decomp and these bodies and the narrative?
Yeah, there was one other thing that kind of had me, my brain turning, was when you have someone that is in such a state of decomp, especially with the extensive skin slippage that they all had, there is usually always an imprint of where that body was laying. I didn't see any of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, because there should have been some, like you said, the body, as it starts to decompose and as it starts to bloat, it's going to release fluids, the decomp fluid. That then leaves an impression. So again, Sophia and I have been saying this forever, and I've seen decomp impressions, okay? And when they pull those bodies away, there's only one place, and that's kind of where Ranya's little body was, that I could say has a mark.
Yes.
Nothing else on that floor has any decomp marks at all.
Especially on a carpet, because the fibers would help hold on.
Suck it in.
Yep. So.
Yeah, and Sophia has said, I can't. In fact, Sophia, you say it. You go for it, girl.
1 minute, it's the trolls. I mean, my little trolls. What did you want me to say?
We were talking about the marks on the floor, and I know what you're thinking, because you've said it a bazillion times, especially when it relates to Camille.
The marks on the floor? The blood?
The lack of, how many times have you stated, where's the blood on the floor under Camille?
Yeah, I mean, like by the couch and stuff like that, there should be blood there. I mean, that's where her head was missing. That's where her hands were missing. There's no fluid leakage, nothing.
No blood, no brain tissue, nothing.
While she was laying there, it should be there. You know, I mean, the blood might not have been flowing out because she was dead, but there would have been fluid leaking out.
And some remnants of skin.
Sorry?
And remnants of skin.
Yes. Thank you. And, I mean, if they were there, like, up to 3 weeks, would a coroner be able to come in and bag them in just, like, under 5 minutes apiece? Because that coroner was there for 45 minutes, and she literally wrote down the times that she had bagged them, and it's like 5 minutes between each of the bodies. I mean, there's very little time in between. And with skin slippage and everything else, I'm finding that so hard to believe. They would have to be handled with care and very gingerly, and
if they were in the advanced stages that they said they were.
Right.
Correct.
Yes, because anytime we've dealt with any type of decomp in that state, it was 4 or 5 of us. We would have the body bag laying as close to the decedent as possible, and everybody would have a hand in on the body so that we could, as easily as possible, without trying to disturb, the evidence and everything else that was there, and put that person in that bag. So 5 minutes, no, sorry. If they were, not to sound, morbid, but if it was a fresh corpse, yes, 2 people, in, out, done.
Mm-hmm. And that was something else that another thing that I have been, talking about was the time that the ME and her deputy coroner were at the scene. I only went to one actual scene with my deputy coroner friend, and it just happened to be a shooting. Mm-hmm. But they had the perpetrator, they had the victim, but for one person, that deputy coroner was on scene for over 3 hours for one person. And then this ME comes in, and they're in and out in 45 minutes with 3 bodies? And I'm like, I'm calling foul. All the way across the board. I'm like, no, this is not right.
Yeah. Yep.
So, and here's another thing. I don't know if you probably don't know this, because I don't know if you've had the chance to read the reports, but how they found Camille, and this is why it cracks me up why they blame the dog. Camille's left arm was under, she's face down, right, on her stomach, face down on the floor with her head to the side. Left hand under her body, right arm above her head. Now, mind you, left hand's missing, right hand's missing. Underneath her body, but it's missing in the dog, ain't it? And her head is covered with a blanket. So when they came in, they didn't know her head was missing. They only saw her body, and that's it. So, and I'm like going, Paleo didn't do this. Because how did Paleo get underneath the blanket when she's face down? How did he get to her neck and her larynx and her face when her abdomen is right here, her back of her legs, and even Sophia said, you know, she has a rip in the back of her legs, and Sophia's like, well, if he's going to be going at that, why wouldn't he be getting to the part that's exposed? And so, yeah, and I'm like going, Paleo is not the culprit. Could it have been another dog? Maybe, but it wasn't Paleo, and it wasn't there, because this doesn't happen completely covered. They didn't, again, they're like head covered by a blanket, you know, then later missing most of head and hands, but they didn't know that. So have you ever seen a magic dog that could eat hands and things underneath bodies and underneath blankets and not disturb anything?
Nope. And then
I know I'm being facetious, I'm sorry, but it's so ludicrous.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. Did I read that they didn't find any of the bone from the missing body parts?
They found some bone fragments that they said were consistent with phalanges, but not a lot. They found skull fragments, and they were able to find, they had two maxillas and a mandible, but then some, and then one was just, you know, like groups of 2 and 3 teeth with the bone attached. So they found some pieces, but not enough to explain 3 hands and 2 complete faces missing. No, they didn't find all that.
And Ronnie's arm.
Yes, thank you. And Rania's entire right arm from the socket was missing with a fractured 3rd rib.
Yeah, that one got me too. Where'd the fractured rib come from?
Mm-hmm.
And the clothes being up and down, that really that made me very. Didn't sit right with me.
No, and I don't know about you, but when I saw that, what I pictured, and it's just, and I don't want to be crude, rude, and offensive because it's a child, but I imagine them grabbing her by the leg and just dragging her across the floor and dumping her.
That's what I grabbing her by the pants, grabbing her by the shirt, and just kind of.
Yep. And just dumped her. And I'm like, how disgusting. And that's why I get really angry at whoever did this. And we know David didn't do it because the decomp proves he's more, and even you're, thank you. Even you're telling us he's in a more advanced stage of decomp. So we know he died first. He didn't do this. So whoever the jerk was that killed that little girl and killed Camille, you know, they're despicable human beings.
Now, how do you guys feel about the parent, the father and the brother?
Yeah, you're muted.
Okay, to answer Sarah's questions, I'm not going to accuse anybody on the record. So we'll talk privately in regards to that.
I get it.
We'll talk when we're not recording.
But for David's autopsy, they have written on his tag at 12:58, and only 2 people put him in that bag. And then for Camille, it was at 1:10. And only, again, 2 people put her in that bag. And then for Rania, hers was at 12:50. And 2 people put her in the bag.
Now, see, I find that interesting. Why the time difference?
12:50. 12:58 and 1:10. So less than 20 minutes. Can't hear you.
I mute myself because I tend to interrupt people. So I'm sorry. I had the time mixed up in my head. Sorry.
Yeah, so they have those. And then she actually got there at 12:56 p.m. at the crime scene. She immediately, no, that's not true.
Yeah, because when you look at this, here's the thing. That's another thing you'll find odd with this case. What Sophia's going to read to us right now is going to be a different time than the sign-in sheet. The sign-in sheet has her in and out there in 45 minutes, but this other time that she quotes from, she's there, what, like an hour and a half or something?
Yes.
Yeah, so two totally different times. Now, the sign-in sheet is what I'm going to go by because they have to look at their watch when they come in, and then when they leave, they have to, because they're loading up the bodies, and they have to go, it's that time, they've left. I'm going by sign-in sheet.
They got there at 12:30 a.m. and they left at 1:15 a.m. 45 minutes.
Yeah, 45 minutes. Does that sound normal to you?
That's not normal. No. No.
Okay. Should we wrap this one up, or do you have any other questions? Because is there anything you want? Okay, I had to make sure I didn't mute myself. God, it's a day. But I'm telling you, would love to have you come back and do. Oh, what? Go ahead.
The paperwork from last night about the tattoos and stuff like that.
Oh, yes.
Any paperwork?
Yes. Okay. On the Hennepin County, on their, let me pull that up. You emailed it to me, correct? Wait, no, you sent it to me and I saved it. I'll find it. I will find this because this was important. What did I have to find out where I stuck it. I should have been prepared for that. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Okay. Let me, I'm going to see if I can, oops, I can get rid of that. Wait, where did everybody go? Oh, there you are. I lost the little button where everybody was on the screen. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to share my screen. So Sarah, you can see it, and then because Sophia had some good questions because she pointed something out which doesn't sit right with either of us. But let me share my screen. Share. Okay, so you can see the screen, right, where it says public data form?
Yes, I can.
Okay, now this is for each one here. I'm going to point this out. I'm going to highlight it so people can see it. They identify marks, scars, and amputations. It says no record. Now they all, well, he and Kamel have tons of tattoos. Shouldn't they have listed the tattoos?
Yes.
And yeah,
definitely. And that's an error on both the police and the medical examiner.
Yeah, and I'm like going, wait a second, they should have okay, cremation. Oh, I'm at the bottom now. And same thing. This, okay, that's, yeah, Kamel, identifying marks, scars, no record. They have her there. Here, build, no record. Hair color, no, unknown. Complexion, no record. They have her there. They know her nationality.
Right.
Race is white, but her nationality is not white.
Exactly. Exactly. And so, I mean, we have huge problems with this. Now, I will give them the eyes because the face was gone, and even with, even though Ranya's face was still there, we know that when, due to the clouding of the eyes, they might not be able to tell the eye color. But the rest of that, they should have been able to record.
Yes.
No record. No record. Who's this? David.
And the one tattoo that I saw the photo of, my husband and I had, my husband and I were discussing the case, and he had a really good point. The one very close up tattoo had the stippling almost looking, like dimpling in the skin, almost as if it was a very, very fresh tattoo, which is not normal, especially in someone who is in, stages of decomposition. So I'm curious, like, where did that come in? Like, how is that possible?
Yeah, thank you. Because we've been looking at some of that too, and it's like things like there's just so many things that don't make sense, and it's almost I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but it almost seems to me like they're trying to get David's body presented in a way that they can pass the narrative of making him the guilty party, because he's not the guilty party, and everything else proves that he's not. The state of his body, the decomposition, everything else. So what are they doing?
Right. Yeah, that tattoo looked way too fresh. The skin, you can Google fresh tattoos, and you can see that same, stippling, I guess you could call it, in the skin on a live person. You don't see that on someone who has presumably been dead for 3 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks, yeah. So, is there anything else, Sophia, you wanted to point out on that form?
Speaking of tattoos, did you want to talk to her about... Okay, that's fine. We can do it on a different show when we have more details. Okay. My bad. Sorry.
I've just been doing a lot of soul searching, and I like living. I'm keeping my mouth shut.
You need to read my email.
So they're just, I don't mind saying some things, but some things it's like what I'm finding with this case, I like to live, and I want to live, so.
And for the record, no one is suicidal.
No, yeah, exactly. Oh, we don't, that doesn't, David said that too. That's the thing, is David went on a couple of the things, and he's like, I want everybody to know I am not suicidal. And then what do? Oh, yeah, suicide murder.
Oh, and I had one more thing very quickly. In your one video about the you're muted.
Oh my God. Okay, yes, the skull.
Yes, so the suture lines that you were talking about in the one video, I just thought I have a skull here.
Yes, please show everybody the coronal, the sagittal, the lambdoid. Yes.
Okay, so got to refresh myself on these, but these are your natural suture lines from when you're born. I'm trying to think.
The one in that top one is the coronal. When the coronal goes this way.
Yes. So I don't know if you guys can see that.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be your front of your face.
Yep.
And then that one. And
sagittal.
And then no, that's the bottom. You don't need that one.
I think
that's the mandible.
Yeah.
But
are these down here? Are they the lambdoid? And it's been a while. I can't remember. There's the lambdoid, and then the. I'm going to look it up really quick. Hold on. Yeah. I'm going to cheat.
Okay, cheat for me.
Sutures of the head.
I think what I was seeing was back here.
Okay, the one on the sides. Okay, the lambdoid is the back, and the squamous is on the side.
Okay, so yeah. And they were saying he was shot.
Right. I'm assuming the entrance wound. They said they can't find the exit is up here in the parietal.
Okay.
the way they word it. Oh, here, you've got a head. Let me pull up the autopsy, and then I'll read it to you directly.
All right.
That would be the best thing.
Parietal. The left side.
The left parietal exit wound is left parietal bone with external beveling and scalp. But let me go to where they talk about it, how they measured this. You are going to love this. Gunshot wound. Let me find it. Okay, get this. I want to see your face, so I'm gonna shrink down my screen. I want to see your face when I read this because it's hilarious. On the left parietal scalp, centered approximately 9 inches above the left shoulder. We got to go up 9 inches, so it's like roughly here. Okay. 9 inches above the left shoulder and 4 inches left of the posterior midline. So the middle of the head, 4 inches over, 9 inches up is the exit wound.
Oh, sorry. I'll keep that one to myself. Wow.
So now, if we're trying to put an imaginary line through that, I'm trying to imagine in my head, and I could be completely wrong, I'll admit, but I'm like, that should put, like, right, yes, the post-auricular behind the right. Now, David is very handy with weapons. If you're a military man, are you going to go here with a 40 cal?
No.
I don't think so. You're going to go here, or you will go here. Yes. Not
back here to try to do all this craziness.
I'm sorry, what's that?
Look at the hand that you're using, though. It's the right hand. Where was that gun found?
And on the left, pointing away.
Yeah, with the arm outstretched, and it was by that.
It was pointing towards him.
Yeah, supposedly it was pointing up, but it was, his arms are outstretched, and it's by the left hand outstretched, but supposedly it went here. How did it get from here to there, almost, 2.5 feet away? 3 feet away? Across his body, no less.
And like I said, I've seen instances where usually once that's done, the hand stays on the gun, not slung across the room or on the other side of the body. It's usually on the same side as the hand that was used. So.
And you sent us a picture of that to prove that point. Yes. And that is something Sophia's, again, that's one of her, like, trying to beat home to people. You got to understand, this isn't right. It's not right.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. And I've seen many pictures of that also from my grandfather being in law enforcement, where he's, been on suicide calls and same scenario. Even as much as a man who put himself inside of a garbage can to try to contain the mess for his family, but it was still in the hand that he used.
Wow, see? And, that's why I believe with all of my heart and soul, somebody else killed this family. I don't know who it was. It was not David. He was an innocent victim, and he died first. Decomp proves that without a shadow of a doubt. It proves it.
And I have some other theories that I'll speak with you ladies off of record about some folks that were also involved that you may or may not know about.
Okay. Sounds like a plan.
Very well known now, I should say.
Okay, well, we can shut this down so we can chit-chat. But anything else? Sophia, do you have any last words? Sarah, do you have anything else? Oh, go ahead, Sophia.
I just want to thank everybody for watching tonight. I know that we're not live, but we are recording it. But future viewers, thank you. And if you've enjoyed the information tonight and everything, please make sure to leave a like and a comment. It helps with the algorithms. It helps our videos get seen, and it helps Catherine a lot. And if you are interested in looking at the crime scene photos, the autopsies, all that stuff like that, we have information in the group. We also have it in Greg's website, and I'm going to leave that link underneath this video once it's available so that you could go to it. And there's plenty of other videos where we go into more details about the autopsies and photos and everything else. So feel free to check out Catherine's channel for that. And thank you again, and thank you, Sarah, so much. We truly appreciate your time.
Sarah, any last words?
No, thank you for having me, and whenever you'd like me to come back, just let me know. I have no problem with that.
Sounds great. Absolutely great.
We will definitely have you back, and again, I'm sure, Sophia, we all agree, we definitely want to do live because I know that the listeners would love to talk to you and ask questions. And thank you. I mean, your knowledge is invaluable right now, and to have that, it's like, I don't know how, I think maybe, I don't want to speak for you, Sophia, but for me, I feel vindicated. So thank you. I know stuff we've been saying, and we've taken so much flack for everything we've said, but now it's like a professional. You are a professional. You have experience. You're expert in your field, so to speak. You have a clue. So thank you. And thank you for being willing to come forward.
I feel very validated right now, so thank you.
Good.
I don't feel crazy.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. We're going to shut this down, and we will catch you next time. And
good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.